Warning: the podcast you are about to listen to discusses films on the basis of the craft of screenwriting. It contains spoilers. Films discussed may also contain offensive content.
In this episode, we discuss Rango, released in 2011, and Edward Scissorhands, released in 1990.
Hey, welcome to Jay and Dave, Went to Film School podcast. Is this episode 10 or 9?
I think it is 10.
I think it's 10.
Which only means you got something to look forward to in our next episode.
That's right. Who knows what the celebration will all entail.
Well, speaking about celebrations, my dad is celebrating his birthday today. I think I told you about that before.
Yeah, you had a birthday breakfast. Was it like the whole works? Pancakes, eggs, bacon?
Yeah, no, it was, I like to call it a fully white breakfast because it was eggs, toast, bacon, sausage, and pancakes.
Nothing wrong with that breakfast.
I know. I love, I like a classic American breakfast because, yeah, it's my favorite thing actually about traveling. Actually, just going to a hotel and getting a free continental breakfast.
I have been to some other countries, and I guess breakfast is done differently in a lot of places. Some countries actually they eat the same thing that they do for lunch and supper for breakfast. So, like in Thailand, you have curry for supper, you have curry for breakfast. I mean, I love curry, so that works, but it was something different to get used to.
Because, like, it is kind of interesting, because, like, over here, you just have breakfast food at any hour of the day. Yeah, I've had bacon at breakfast and lunch and dinner and, like, post-dinner and, like, just as a snack.
It's true. I love me a good breakfast sandwich, and I'll sometimes get them for lunch. There's no rules against that.
Yeah, I mean, like, when I was in film school, like, if I just didn't have anything else to do for lunch, I'd just go down to Tim's, and I'd just get, like, a farmer's wrap.
Yeah.
And I'd be set for, like, the next 4 hours.
I'm really glad that a lot of those restaurants decided to do the all-day breakfast. It was a great shift in society and culture.
It is interesting, right? It's like breakfast is the only, like, food, like, type that has a time limit. Because, like, I figure, like, you can cook an egg on the same stove you like make a steak on, right?
Yeah.
And like it's not like we like the ingredients for breakfast like disappears at like 12.
Yeah, it's interesting how that develops in a culture.
So really the all day breakfast really isn't the most revolutionary of things, but like I appreciate that it's been done.
True. I mean, not the most, it's not in the top 5 most revolutionary societal improvements. But it's one of them.
I still figure breakfast is an amazing comfort food, and I'm glad I live like next door to a Denny's where I actually do a little bit of my writing.
Hey, that's actually a good point to bring up on a screenwriting podcast, which is what kind of environment do you find you're most productive in for writing? I also sometimes go to coffee shops to write.
Yeah, here's the thing. I used to be the person also who went to coffee shops to do my writing as well, right? But they never served breakfast food. And more importantly, right, when you buy coffee at a coffee shop, right, they only give you 1 cup. You go to a sit-down diner, it's unlimited refills. Well, theoretically. I'm assuming there is like an upper like cap ceiling of how much coffee you can drink. But I don't think I've reached that yet.
I had not thought about the amount of coffee needed to be drank or food, probably because if I go to like a Starbucks to do some writing, I can grab a breakfast sandwich, so the food option is there. But hey, a Denny's breakfast is pretty good.
Denny's breakfast, like here, I always found that if you eat food with like a fork and a knife, there's like an element of like, I don't know, the food just tastes better. I don't know if it's a psychology thing, but like I figure it's like it's a higher quality than having it served in like a wrapped piece of paper. True,
and I mean, and you're paying for it. The price is definitely more.
Yeah, the price is 100% definitely more, and like I gotta tell you that I hope the scripts I'm writing in the Denny's is gonna make money because I'm spending way too much.
It's that extra incentive. You're like forcing yourself. Right? You better make a return on this because otherwise you're sunk.
Hey, I gotta tell you, man, it's a good motivator.
There you
You
go.
know,
Never
it's
thought about
bacon.
that aspect
Yeah,
either.
it's bacon. It's unlimited coffee, and it's the fact you're spending $20 to be there.
Sink or swim.
I'm glad we are talking about breakfast because not it's not often where our intro banter is like slightly related to the movies we're talking about. Knowing the backstory a little bit about how Rango was made, it was also made in a breakfast diner.
Interesting. I did not know the way that it came into being on this earth was in relation to breakfast. That's interesting.
Yeah, because like even before this, like I knew films, a lot of different films were conceived inside of different restaurant food based establishments. Outlines and beat sheets of pitches of movies, written on napkins.
I'm sure there's a lot. I mean, it's nothing new. Lots of writers writers do it.
And I mean, it is convenient. I find that food definitely makes you think.
And I think it's something about the environment being away from home. You have you're in the public, but you're also secluded. It's interesting that when you're in a restaurant, there's an expectation that your people should kind of leave you alone, and so it's one of those contradictions almost because you're around people, but you're also in a silo in those environments.
I guess so. That being said, though, I have like I'm always like it's unavoidable, really, just to eavesdrop on any conversation that happens at a cafe.
Well, and what's interesting is that in some of my classes that I've taken, they say that it's a good idea to listen to conversations in public places to get insight on writing dialogue. It's actually a good habit and way to improve your dialogue writing.
I mean, the only small caveat with that is we do live in a country with a lot of different language speakers. Sometimes we don't understand what they're talking.
Yeah,
But
you've got all the spectrum there. But hey, you could write movies with any element from that spectrum. So
I did find it was funny one time where I did sit down and I saw about four Persian guys like just talking, and they're very expressive speakers. So I just kind of like made up the dialogue in my head. But Rango though, yeah,
so yeah, go back to Rango. Yeah.
started in the diner like I said. There just it was three guys talking. Right, it was the director. His name is Gore Verbinski, right? Who is the director of, notably, the Pirates of the Caribbean, the original first three movies.
Oh, okay.
It was a children's book author actually named David Shannon, who actually wrote a book my sister keeps making fun of me of called like "Don't Do That, David." It's like a storybook about a kid named David who's just like a rambunctious, crazy kid.
And that was something that matched your home life.
No, I'm actually the complete opposite of David, but like my sister just keeps like, "Hey, your name." I mean, honestly, I'd rather them compare me to David and Goliath, but whatever.
Well, hey, there's nothing saying that you can't do that yet too in your life.
I guess so. It's two sides of the same coin, really. But yeah, it was for Binsky, it was David Shannon, and then it was a animation producer named John Wells.
Just a question: when was Rango made? Because was it before or after the first Pirates of the Caribbean?
It was after actually. Rango is Gore Verbinski's first and currently only animated movie. He had like it's a 3D movie, and he had experience on Pirates of the Caribbean working a lot with heavy CGI elements. Like Davy Jones, like the tentacle guy, already is like fully animated. I believe they used ILM, which is the VFX company, to do that, and they used the same company to work on Rango.
Well, that's one of the things that stood out to me about Rango was just the detail of the animation. It was one of the most detailed animated features that I've ever seen.
According to his interview, because I kind of did a little bit of a rabbit hole last night, Gore Verbinski just didn't want his 3D to look cheap, right? He didn't want to look like the Blender kiddie, stuff you'd see around the same time. He wanted to go all out.
Yeah, it's just so textured and so detailed.
I always kind of forget that this movie is tied to Nickelodeon Animation, which is known for SpongeBob. So you get, SpongeBob and Rugrats, the movie, right? Very, 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 very childish. Very,
Yep.
which is, they're still great movies. Like, I'm not trashing on SpongeBob. It's a cultural phenomenon. SpongeBob, the movie with David Hasselhoff, another David I relate to a lot, uh, is amazing.
Three-sided coin. You've got the three-sided David coin.
Yes, the it's really just a D&D dice at this point. Rango was made by Nickelodeon, which also at the same time made Steven Spielberg's Tintin, which is also a fantastically animated movie that I don't know if ILM worked on it, but they came out at the same time, actually. They both competed in the same Golden Globes category. Apparently, this is the part of the interview that I like the most, right? Because the original, I guess, pitch idea, and I say pitch idea, I imagine it's the three guys, every single one of them with their faces full, just saying like, hey, wouldn't it be crazy if we made an animated movie about a couple animals in the desert? And then Verbinski's like, huh, interesting. So apparently that night he went home and drafted out an outline. And he actually listed his writing process in his interview, which is literally just like connecting sequential, logical things that connected to each other. So it was like, Western movie set in the desert. Trope of a Western movie is a stranger coming into a desert. Stranger means foreigner. What's a foreign animal to the desert? It's a chameleon. It's an aquatic creature. Chameleons, they change color. You make the chameleon an actor. You make an actor a liar. It's about a chameleon who is pretending to be something he's not in a desert. And that's pretty much the whole plot of Rango.
That's pretty awesome. I was going to say the subtitle or the logline for Rango, to me, How a Chameleon Overcomes Imposter Syndrome, which is genius. I mean, for an animated feature, chameleon changes color, matching its surroundings. That's who the main character is. Not just as a physical being, but personality.
Cause yeah, no. When I read that interview quote, I'm like, yeah, no, it's simple, but it works. And like, I immediately was like, I kind of want to try doing that. Like, I kind of want to go meet up with some writer friends and just be like, hey, like, just tell me like a random story idea, and I'm just gonna see if there's anything in there that will work.
Having like creative sessions, like brainstorming sessions about ideas, stuff can get generated. Definitely.
I guess what I'm saying is, next time you're in Vancouver, let's hit up at Denny's.
Definitely. Yeah, let's do it. I mean, hey, technically you could do these sessions online too, but don't have breakfast, so might not work.
It's a BOB, bring your own breakfast.
I feel like I just have to note for any cereal lovers out there, I had a breakfast that I had never had before that felt pretty special. I'm a fan of like the sweet breakfast cereals, so like Cinnamon Toast Crunch is a big favorite, Lucky Charms. And Reese Puffs, that's another good one. I was almost out like the bottom of the bag for two of those, so I mixed them together and then topped it up with the third one. So I had a combination of those three breakfast cereals today. It was pretty good.
Like a cocktail bartender you got in your like breakfast, shaking up some Cinnamon Toast Crunch, adding just a splash Lucky Charms.
Shaken, not stirred.
Oh, now we have to know, right? Are you a milk first guy or a cereal first guy?
Oh, I don't even understand milk first.
Okay, Science David coming in, and by Science David I mean I've seen cereal. I figured the reason sometimes people put the milk on first is so you can get the top layer of cereal like kind of milky. Because if you put the milk first, then the cereal floats, right? So you get like a top layer cereal that's just dry, and that's the first kind of bit of cereal you're eating.
That's true. I guess I don't understand why you can't just use your spoon to mix the cereal, since you're using the spoon to consume the cereal anyway. It just seems fairly straightforward, but
well, it's the morning. Are you gonna do that much extra work in the morning?
I guess not everyone does.
The one caveat behind the milk first is that you get your cereal all degrades at the same rate, because it's just gonna get soggy. If you have the dry cereal on top, at least you have different levels of sogginess. You can get the bottom ones first, technically.
Yeah, you can kind of fine tune it depending on how savvy you are with your spoon.
That being said, though, it has been quite a bit of time since I've had my last cereal.
I'd recommend the cocktail.
all the sugary food you can at the very beginning of your morning.
I mean, they're all full of sugar by themselves, and so you're not really getting any more sugar than you would have by having a bowl of one of
Yeah,
them.
no, I guess so, right?
It's
It's like
just
you have to get exact measuring cups. Get your daily intake of sugar.
Rango. I thought it was a great movie. It was creative. It had a lot of creative set pieces. They made use of the animation medium really well. Like when he first gets tossed from the car, and that, I mean they did kind of a slow mo scene of that kind of lifting of his aquarium and crashing on the road and at high speed, and then he gets kind of tossed from car to car, which was really fun, and a lot of movement. And then there's like the hawk chase, different set pieces throughout that were really well done. And yeah, I mean, the other just big thing is the character. He's a really well designed character, and that's what you want as a screenwriter, is to build enough into your character that he has a journey to go on, and we see that journey, we see his flaws. It's a specific journey that you come back to see him sort of culminate in overcoming that flaw, coming into a transformed existence, which is what happens in Rango.
Yeah, just on that, like both Rango and Edward Scissorhands kind of both deal with main characters who didn't want or expect to go on an adventure, right? Like, they all love their ordinary worlds.
Mm-hmm.
And if you really, like, thought about it, like, they could have been completely fine staying in their house/terrarium. But, like, it's, like, outside influences are the things that kind of push them on that journey.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So it's always cool seeing stories like that, right? Where it's like, okay, you have to deal with uncertainties and, you know, random things that happen throughout life, and you kind of just make it work, as opposed to, like, denying your inciting incident, essentially, right? Like, Rango could have had any opportunity to just, like, turn around and die, but no, he kept walking.
Mm-hmm.
He got into his town, and he decided, yeah, this is where I'm going to be for now. And, yeah, I mean, it's funny, it's a little hopeful. It's kind of crazy to see, but I love stories like that.
Yeah, it's definitely journeys of self-discovery and like finding one's identity in both films. They say it pretty clearly in Rango because he kind of repeats "Who am I?" in the movie, and you see from the beginning his character intro is great too, because he's got a fake existence. Basically, he's got plastic toys as his only friends, and so he creates dramatic interactions with these plastic toys, and that's his whole existence. So we see that at the beginning, and he plays up his acting and his love of being in adventures, even though they're all false, they're just dramas. But he thrives on that persona of the hero, but he's not a hero yet, and so now he gets thrust into a story where he has to basically sink or swim, you know, like you at Denny's. And how is he gonna overcome this situation, which calls for a real hero?
Amazing antagonist for this movie, by the way. Rattlesnake Jake, genuinely an incredibly intimidating character. But yeah, the turtle also, kind of really scary. Like, another thing about this, because like it is kind of like, this story is kind of aimed for kids, right? It is produced by Nickelodeon, but it's quite adult. Like, there's like, actually, it kind of got dinged actually for including scenes with smoking in it by a couple parental watch groups. It was able to get away with it, but
yeah, I don't know if I could have picked the age group that it was going for. It did seem to kind of span, like it was very fitting the Western genre, which is generally more of an adult genre. It spanned the demographics quite a bit, I would say. But the writing was geared more for kids, for sure.
Oh, 100%. Like, especially with your lot of physical comedy, like over the top. Definitely the comedic beats definitely get the kids in there. And
some of the jokes, I would say, too, were geared for a younger population.
I don't think there's any poop jokes, which is good. But yeah, for adults, like I said, Gore Verbinski is a live-action director. His CV, I guess, his IMDb, is the Pirates of the Caribbean. He has the Lone Ranger actually on his as a thing he's directed, which is a substantially worse Western film than Rango. I think it's got like 34% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. He filmed Rango as a live action movie, essentially, during the production of it. Instead of having the voice actors in a recording booth, he actually built sets for them.
Really?
To physically act, right? So they had the guys with the boom mics in there, and like, Johnny Depp and like their whole cast were acting out their parts
Interesting.
to get the physical raw emotion, right?
Huh.
We still technically do that. We do that with motion capture now. The thing is, he didn't use motion capture for this. He had the animators still have the freedom to interpret the movements and interpret the voices to match the characters better than simply just copy pasting exact movements one for one, which is cool. You don't really see that anymore since like the Disney era of animation, where animators would build sets for their actors, but they would use them as just animation references for movement and stuff like that. The only other movie I know that I've watched recently that's done something similar, like it's kind of like on location, on set recording, is a 2024 French film called Chicken for Linda, which actually had the characters record in settings that actually amplified their voices, which is cool. They had scenes in the movie where they took place in like apartment lobbies or like an apartment corridor, so you actually have the raw sounds of echoes from like stairwells inside of the movie.
Yeah, that's with animation. There's kind of different considerations for recording. So it's interesting to hear when different movies do it different ways.
The thing is, we generally don't do it anymore. I guess it's just too complicated or too expensive. It's incredible behind the scenes if you actually get the DVD for Rango and you watch it. You just have like just Johnny Depp being straight up Johnny Depp with his like full on facial emotions and stuff like that. It's crazy. I'd love to see a full like director's cut release of just the Rango live action version.
The Rango live action. That's cool.
I definitely like if I were to make a movie like that, I'd love to just call up one of the guys from VFS that made like a live action production and be like, hey, I got some animators. We could do it.
Really well written film, I would say, from a structure perspective, because the character and structure perspective, because his flaw is, of course, that he's basically a player. He's just playing a part as a hero, and he's a talker, so he knows how to win a crowd over, but it's all just kind of surface. And so there's the scene or one of the lines when the crowd is like, about time we get a hero around here, which is great to remind us that is his journey and that is the part that he's playing. And now he's found a place where he's gonna use that or like try to fulfill that persona. How's it gonna go when he's only ever just played the part? And then one of the things that you want to do when you're structuring your movie is to make sure that you show the kind of the vacillation between the original world, not yet transformed person, and what that essence of future transformation will be. And there's the one scene when they're praying to the spirit of the West, where he looks around and sees how everyone is believing in him, and then that's that tension. You can see it in his face that he's just playing a part, and he's not confident in himself. And so really good scene to put in there because it just shows that contrast, that he's not yet transformed.
Also, small side note, Spirit of the West, modeled after Clint Eastwood.
Yes, I was going to say, when he goes across the road and he gets that pep talk from Clint Eastwood.
Yeah. Another fun fact in there, the golf cart actually has all 5 of his Oscars he won in his life.
Oh, interesting.
Which I believe Rango calls out as like the golden statues or something like that.
Yeah, I forget the term. It was something else, or maybe it was. But I saw that, or I was thinking of that they're calling that out.
But yeah, no,
but I didn't know it was his Academy Awards. I thought it was just sort of this guy has gold statues.
It's straight up Clint Eastwood because the movie like not only pays like so much homage to just like Western films, it like seriously structures itself just like one, to the point where I go back where it just doesn't feel like a kid's movie at some points, where it feels so skewed to adults, because a lot of Western movies were, like you said, for adults. I don't think I can really think of like a lot of other Westerns that have that same grit and like, I guess, edge to it in the animation genre than Rango. at least for Western genre. The only other one I have is like an animated TV series called Trigun Stampede, which if you like westerns and you like animation, I definitely recommend. Gore Verbinski really really wanted to keep that live actionness in there, and you can kind of see that in the fact that Rango includes a lot of really quiet talking scenes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like you have Rango with Beans and then Rango the turtle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a thing that Gore even like mentioned in his interview, that sometimes with the animation genre, where you could do everything, you kind of forget that you can also do the simple stuff as well, and you can do the simple stuff really good. I'm the kind of person who does fall asleep when a movie is just dialogue. That's why I can't really get onto like romances or like those like telenovelas, because I just don't care about just people talking. I kind of care about people doing. I think there's just something really captivating of just seeing not only a gecko talking to, like, I think it's like a salamander or something like that. I forgot what Beans is. But yeah, like just having already not only just the animation format, just making something interesting to look at, but just that really well structured, just full on character that really does develop. You just see actually talking to people, as opposed to just like, here's a funny character who's like, you know, everyone's favorite chicken.
Yeah, and
In an animated kids movie.
if you want to have a well crafted plot, then you're gonna need some like exposition and dialogue scenes just to progress that plot. And so that's the ongoing challenge for the writer as well, is how do you fit that in so that it's not detraction from the overall. But especially for animated movies, there is that need because your audience doesn't always have the longest attention span.
Yeah, like I am like a little bit thankful that I did end up going to film school, because it reminded me that where the ground is to stay grounded when I do go off and make cartoons and fun stuff like that.
Yeah, it will add to the end product if you've got all those elements in place, an interesting plot. People, without realizing it, I think audiences always want interesting plot.
Yeah, no, overall, I think Rango is definitely in my top 20 movies of all time, I think. It's definitely, I definitely should give it a rewatch myself. Because, yeah, like I said, if this episode is going to be a Johnny Depp episode, he's just a fun guy to watch.
Indeed, yeah. He is one of the more interesting and, like, visually interesting talents in Hollywood.
100%. And, like, he's got so many different roles. Like, you got Rango, but then you got, like, characters like the Mad Hatter and Alice in Wonderland, right? And then, like over all the way to the left, it was, like, you know, Captain Jack Sparrow. And, like, how do you even connect the dots between all three?
He's got range. That he does.
I'd love to see him in just more animated projects, because he's got a really distinct voice as well.
Well, and this role actually almost was more subdued than a lot of his, because he kind of is an actor as an actor, which allowed for some kind of expressiveness. But I would say when you compare it to his other roles, it's not even as out there.
Because yeah, with Gore Verbinski's like unique filming it live and then animating it, there was room for improv. There was room for Depp to be Depp, and I can't remember which lines were like not part of the script, but I know the animators took a lot of his characteristics when making Rango's like running or like just general movements. Like especially that one scene where he's bragging about killing 7 bandits with 1 bullet.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
They really took his expressions for that one.
That must help an animator if they have like a live action piece of footage of who they're animating.
Traditionally, it does help. There's a common misconception that like all animators know like just off the top of their mind how the body works and how the body moves. But like it's always common to see even in Disney now, like modern movies. What's a recent one? Turning Red, the Red Panda movie. I believe they actually brought in red pandas into the Disney studio for the animators to use as references. So they just like started sketching a whole bunch of them, as opposed to just looking up Google images and just pictures of them, because Disney has money and they can just do that. That's why I'm kind of happy that I meet different people, because like whenever I talk with my like animator friends and like, hey, I'm making a movie about breakdancing ninjas or something like that, and I'd be like, hey, I know a breakdancer, and hey, I know a ninja, so You could go talk to them and just like record them for you. It's good to have connections, to just look at them and actually hear stories as well, I suppose.
Every job needs the research, the background research. So I'm sure it's the same for animators.
And I'm interested to know if Edward Scissorhands had the same level of like, hey, let's watch some professional gardeners trim some topiary because we got to give Johnny Depp something to work with.
I would think so. They probably looked at a few hedges. I'm guessing. I guess Rango. I think I'd give it a 4 out of 5. I would say the knocks I had against it were just kind of some of the joke writing was kind of weak, but visually and structurally and the character was all really good.
And yeah, no, I have to agree. There are certain movies that I wish weren't made by kids animation companies to like just let them fully ride, you know. But unfortunately, I think we're still in that era where I mean we're definitely in the transition period where animation's seen more as a visual medium than a specific genre that only kids can like. If Rango like was fully allowed to just take every single aspect of like the Western genre and just have like full gunfights and I don't know, even like a little bit of cussing in there, it would have been fun.
You know, you could have a great Western even without the cussing, technically.
Oh, well, fair enough. I just
it could
see
still be gritty.
Yeah.
But hey, you know, write the sequel. You never know. Maybe Verbinski wants to do the next level of Rango.
There was talks of a sequel, but I believe it was canceled early on.
Edward Scissorhands, what did you think?
Well, I'll tell you what, you were right about this feeling quite animated. Because, I'll tell you, the set design was very, very good. Like, I just noticed, like, you know, suburbia, the design of that is all, like, different colored houses and stuff like that. All the people, even though they dressed differently, all felt like cookie cutters of each other.
Yeah, they used kind of a 4-color palette that was kind of pastel-y for all the houses.
And then you contradict that. You contrast that with Edward Scissorhands' house, which is, you know, a character that's completely black and white. His house is decrepit, but really nice, beautiful green and red roses and topiary. So, like, they definitely had an eye for color, and I could not expect anything less than that from a Tim Burton Danny Elfman movie.
They definitely had an eye for style. It was highly stylized, something that, yeah, definitely fits Tim Burton. The genre, which, at least how it's described, is a gothic romantic fantasy. Pretty unique. I don't know. Have you heard of any other gothic romantic fantasies?
The thing is, actually, kinda, yeah. Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
While I was watching it, I was like just thinking of like all the different like animated features that this kind of felt like. And Beauty and the Beast was top one, but also the Iron Giant as well. Just having a character who is technically just a weapon, being just like a cute guy, just kind of live like a normal life.
I mean, that definitely kind of thematically that's an overlap, but that would be more sci-fi than gothic.
Yeah.
But
character-wise, it's an overlap. But yeah, Beauty and the Beast is definitely the main inspiration, I think, or inspired by. I can't remember which came first. No, Beauty and the Beast came first.
Yeah.
So, and then Frankenstein, technically, according to a little bit of the Googling I did, I guess that's a little
definitely has some Frankenstein inspiration. Yeah.
Actually, speaking of which, is Edward Scissorhands a robot?
So the idea was, at some point they revealed that was a factory, and he was a factory robot on the assembly line.
Right.
And then his creator, good old Vincent Price, he wanted to make one of his robots into a person. So he started putting skin and human parts on this robot, slowly swapping out the robot parts and putting in the human parts. But he died before he finished them, so then that's why he still has the scissor hands.
Notably died in the process of giving him hands, I believe, right?
You know what? I don't remember that scene. I haven't actually watched it in a while.
Yeah, it was a pretty dramatic scene. It was like they use flashbacks quite well because every single flashback is, I think, triggered by something Edward Scissorhands sees or notices. But yeah, no, Vincent Price was like, "Hey, my boy, I got you a fancy new gift for your professional dapperness and being good." And he brings out just 2 arms, and he's holding out in front of him. Scissorhands is like touching him with his sharp hands, and then the guy just has a heart attack and falls. Edward Scissorhands like inadvertently, accidentally slices up his new ants, and he just doesn't have them anymore.
Yeah,
See?
it's a great setup again for a character who's only partly finished, who feels incomplete, and then has to figure out his place in this world, his identity. It's actually got multiple themes going on. What were some of the things you saw thematically?
Here's the thing, right? I kind of saw it as like we were talking about Rango as like characters that didn't want to go on an adventure, and Edward Scissorhands is definitely a guy who doesn't want to go on an adventure, right? He starts isolated and he returns back to isolation, right? The only difference is he's experienced what it's like in the outdoors. He's experienced something that he wants and he experiences something that he loves, right? So we go from being like alone but lonely to being alone, but he's got friends or a friend.
Yeah, that's the summarized log line that I came up for this one, which was emo Freddy Krueger learns how to make friends. It's just not a literal log line, but summary. Definitely about isolation, and I felt like it's about how some people struggle to fit in and need help to integrate, and that we should value people who are different. That's a big one, and it is a tragedy because he receives that help, but society isn't willing to fully accept him.
Yeah.
So then he eventually gets pushed back to his original starting point. So I think that it's not a full transformation in that sense. So it doesn't kind of fit the mold for having been transformed, but it does show that this person was able to experience the human experience, find that place with help, even though in this story it didn't turn out to be a success. It was a success in that he had a friend who helped reach that point, even for a brief time, showing that it was possible.
I can really see somebody look at this movie like two different ways, right? Where you can look at it as like a tragedy of society, right? Where it's like, society isn't willing or isn't ready to, I guess, be kind or understand people that are different, right? Because, you get that mob scene, right, at the end where you just slowly see the neighbors turning on Edward Scissorhands, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I could also see this movie being interpreted as some people are better off left alone, which is a little bit more of a tragedy if you see the mom character, the Avon lady, kind of having some guilt or responsibility for it. Because, yeah, like, she kind of just, like, picks him up and brings him home and just kind of, like, throws him to the deep end straight away. And, like, there's even this one line where she says, like, she wasn't even thinking what she was doing when she brought Edward Scissorhands home.
Yeah, didn't think of all the implications. Yeah.
Yeah, because you gotta, like, realize, like, she straight up brought a guy with scissors for hands into his family home, being a mom who is, like, I guess part of, like, a neighborhood organization of some variety, who, has regular parties and has kids, and lets him sleep on her daughter's water bed. So, yeah, it's a character who definitely did not think, I don't think. She's a very sympathetic character. She's got good intentions.
Yeah, it just shows, I guess, how some people the integration help that is needed needs some thought, and because there are differences among how people live, and even if you think culture to culture, there's going to be big differences, and so if this person comes from just a really different place, regardless of whether it's being a robot or maybe being from a different culture or something, you need to think of those considerations and kind of be intentional about the help you're giving.
Because, like, I do agree, right? Scissorhands definitely needed help, right? He was lonely, and I don't think he was having the best of times living alone, right? But yeah, it's just the matter of, like, how you give someone help, right? You could definitely compare it to somebody with a mental disability who might be having a panic attack, and your first reaction is to try calming him down by, like, just saying, like, breathe or something like that. where that specific kind of help might not be the best of things. It might not be the exact thing they need at that time, even though you have really really good intentions of trying to help this person. What's her name? The lady. I always forget names. Eve or something like that.
The love interest, Winona Ryder.
Yeah, love interest. Yeah, yeah. Like she was the only notably the person who was able to look past the fact that Scissorhands had scissors for hands. Because like even the mom and the dad, even though they didn't mind it, they're like, oh, that's still sharp, and oh yeah, you could just use that for gardening shears. Like she never used Scissorhands for anything more than a real person.
Yeah, which is I think definitely important. Not that having him do gardening work was bad in itself, because you're also trying to find things that this person can be good at and constructive at. Obviously, you're not forcing them to do those things, but giving them that opportunity to find out how they can contribute is a great thing.
Yeah, like I think my favorite scene in that movie was the love interest dancing in the snow, or I guess the ice shavings
from the ice shavings, yeah,
from Scissorhands' ice sculpture, right?
Yeah,
Because I think it's apart from the ladies having downright orgasmic experience having a haircut from Edward Scissorhands. I think she was the only one who actually enjoyed the artistic process of making ice sculpture, as a part of just the final product.
yeah. She was experiencing kind of the greater beauty of the whole environment and the whole situation, and just bringing it into a experience of beauty. And then that was tied in kind of with the end. But I'm gonna admit something now, and I'm not ashamed, but it's this is the movie where as far as I remember, the first movie where I remember shedding a tear. So
Really?
not many people would say that probably for Edward Scissorhands, but for me, that's something about myself. It was the scene when he's trying to help the younger brother after he falls on the street and is injured, and he wants to help so much. All he has in his desire is to help, but all he can do is cut him with his scissor hands. He's trying to reach and sort of do something to help him, but the only thing that his instruments of help, which would otherwise be his hands, all they can do is cut him. And and then the person he's trying to help is just in pain. It's not helping. And I just thought that is just so tragic, that this person who wants to help is unable to because of his flaw. So yeah, that's when I first shed a tear in a movie.
Like genuinely, that also like got me in the feels, right? Because of course it's at that moment where the entire neighborhood shows up just to see that, right?
Yeah, and plus then it's that additional burden of having the town think that he is trying to hurt, so that's compounded on that situation. Yeah.
I don't know if it's the cynic in me from having like seen like the news recently, but this movie really gets you hating on like suburban culture and just people, because it uses so many moments where the neighborhood people are just hypocrites, as you see them slowly turning on Edward Scissorhands. Like I audibly laughed when the war veteran character, who you initially meet at the barbecue, saying "Don't treat your hands like a disability." But when they're hunting Edward Scissorhands down at the end, the police were looking for him. He asked a boy if he's seen the cripple around.
Yeah, so it's definitely working on multiple levels. This film and the themes.
I think that the one like gripe I have with it, and like it's probably just the form of it being a movie from the 90s. But I hate jock characters.
Oh yeah.
Because their only like one character trait is sports women and being a D word. Funnily enough, I looked into a little bit of the backstory behind it. I don't know if you read about it in your research, but Tim Burton wrote the jock character as almost revenge to all the jocks he met in high school.
So yeah, I read something about that. He experienced that kind of bullying as a kid. Yeah.
It's Tim Burton. Come on, you can't do that to him. But yeah.
But hey, maybe it made Tim Burton Tim Burton.
Yeah, maybe.
Not saying it's right, but that is something unique to his makeup.
But yeah, like I think that's the reason why the only person who dies in the end is the jock character. Only because I think Tim Burton apparently quote unquote wanted to live out a high school fantasy of I guess killing his bully or something like that. I don't know.
Writers will do what they can do. We didn't even get into the very modern issue that this brings up, which is, are robots people? As machines get smarter, what makes a person and not just a smart machine? There's a big discussion there.
You know what, right? As a person who loves specifically animated movies about robots who like nature, which this Edward Scissorhands apparently also now falls in that same category as like Wall-E and the Wild Robot.
Yes, I actually just did watch The Wild Robot over the holidays.
It's amazing, isn't it? Right?
It was really good. Yeah.
Well, like slight detour. Pedro Pascal voices the fox,
Yep.
and I could not recognize Pedro Pascal at all. It was amazing.
Oh, really? He's good.
Yeah.
He's good, and he's versatile. He can do animated. He can do sci-fi, everything.
And he's such a nice guy as well. I think Johnny Depp, Pedro Pascal, and arguably Nick Cage. I'm gonna put them up as like the really cool actors that I don't think you can really say anything bad about. Again, not having read any of the drama about them.
Well, people would maybe question you on all of Nick Cage's choices for films, but that he occasionally hits very high notes, that can't be denied.
I think it's just the meme potential of him. I think that's the part I like about him the most. But yeah, robots being human. I have given this thought, right? Because one of my best friends is actually working with AI and like doing research on it. I do dream of a day where we do have like Futurama-esque, Bender or like the Jetsons, like Rosie, kind of just walking around, being both servants but also like really cool people you can talk to. Because like I essentially envision a future where everyone has like their own Batman's Alfred. like Iron Man's Jarvis. Yeah. Where it's like it's at the very nature of it, like they're going to have to be subservient to humans in a way, but I think they have to have like a personality in that like they're just a really charismatic butler.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that you can program in very realistic human intonation into voice, which I've heard some of the voice generation applications, and you can't even tell that they're not a human speaking. But that also just highlights this question, are humans more than the ability to have, human level intonation in our voices?
That is the scary thing about the robot, right? Because they are like, even the basic models of them are going to be levels more intelligent than humans because they just have access to like all of human knowledge and then some.
And so again, is it our intelligence that makes us human? Our intelligence and the way we speak, is that the sum of what makes humans human?
There's honestly many ways of looking at the whole robot human like idea. It's like, does human equal compassion? Does human equal human shape? Does human equal soul? If I die and I go up to heaven and I see my Roomba there, we'll probably have the answer to that.
That's right. Hopefully it doesn't get a better spot than you.
If I go to heaven and I see the Dyson hand air dryer is sitting next to Jesus, I'm going to have some words.
Maybe God will be like, now, David, you're cleaning the Roomba's room from now on, the way you made that thing serve you.
I thought this was heaven. Maybe he finds the cleaning to be very therapeutic. I don't know.
I mean, they look very peaceful as they're, sweeping away.
Bumping into walls and just rebounding, I guess. My whole perspective of it is, I think we kind of have to see how robots develop. And if we ever get to the point where they do develop, like, I don't know if you played the game, but Detroit Become Human Sentience.
Yeah, I played it. It's a good game.
I think at that point, there needs to be some level of political discussion as to whether or not they deserve rights. But the thing is, I hope it does not get to that point. Because any way you look at it, if we get to the point where robots do become sentient, it's just going to be really, really awkward.
My personal opinion is that's like that line, like you can have intelligence, you can have something that looks and sounds identical to a human, but it's not human. It's a programmed entity. You know, you don't give a mannequin the rights as a human because it looks like a human, and you don't give, you know, Wikipedia the rights as a human because it knows as much or more than a human. There's something else, and there's different words that are associated with that something else, like soul or spirit. But definitely humans are self-aware. Robots are programmed. Even to say, I am something something, like if you talk to ChatGPT and you ask, you know, what are you? It's responding in the first person because it's programmed to.
Exactly.
It's
right,
not
it's just
thinking of itself.
It's all based on human speech. Everything it says is just a combination and a summary of what it's learned. It forms thoughts the same way an artist blends colors. It's just putting two and two together.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think it's good to imagine a future and like some, it leads to some good stories to think of if a robot became sentient, you know, because, you know, we are matter and we are sentient. I believe God put that in us, that we have this ability to have self-awareness and even God awareness, that has been given to us by God, and that makes us unique. That's a big difference between anything that mankind makes as a computation device that just kind of follows program.
To use Edward Scissorhands a little bit as an analogy, if we ever get robots, we should not bring it down the mountain and integrate it into society like that.
Without thinking of all the implications.
Without thinking. We should make sure that we never get to a point where they look at us as our enemy or them as an enemy. There should not be like a mob mentality Frankenstein moment in the future where like maybe we should like kill all of the, I don't know, automatic light switches.
And we probably shouldn't even program them to, you know, survive at all costs. Let's maybe rethink that one. Like,
yeah.
It's, you know, it's good to want to survive, but don't give a robot that programming. Like, it just sort of seems like a bad idea.
A little bit, right? I feel like we could go an extra hour just talking about robots. But
yes,
yeah.
Separate discussion. But it was touched on in the film, so, you know, we go to these places.
I tell you what, we'll talk about more robots when you suggest to me to watch Blade Runner, and I suggest you to rewatch The Wild Robot or WALL-E.
Yes, there are multiple films that could go in that vein. We'll think about which ones. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But I think this is a great time to wrap up.
I think so too.
I will quickly say Edward Scissorhands definitely going to be a 4 out of 5 as well for me. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for coming along today on this episode.
Tune in next time where we have more content for you.
More content?
Well, that's a wrap.
Breakfast and
breakfast.
films.
Yeah. That's a breakfast wrap.
Maybe next time we'll do lunch. Breakfast wrap.
Breakfast wrap signing off. Special thanks to Niranj, who made the intro and outro music for this podcast. You can find him on Instagram at his handle @NiranjD. That is @NIRANJD on Instagram.